everybody, we're here with Gina for Liberty. Right, she's a freelance attorney who goes and helps people and tries to helps people with defending other attorneys that help defending people's personal liberty when it comes to all sorts of different issues. So, Gina, if you want to let everybody know about yourself, what you do, and you got the next 10 minutes or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. Let everybody have it. Just
We're good.
All right.
All right. Well, good evening, guys. Thank you both for having me on tonight. It's great to be here with fellow freedom fighters. My phone is ringing, so hang on a second. That's probably...
I know you're a busy person, that's for sure.
Of course, this isn't good. I'm sorry. Okay, hopefully that won't happen. Oh, jeez. Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Should have thought of that beforehand. Okay. So who I am, a little bit about who I am and what I've been doing these last 3 years. I'm a mother first above all things. I'm a pro-life attorney. I've been fighting to preserve our life and liberty these last few years, teaching the people how to stand on our natural rights, which are God-given, which are unalienable, that are secured by our United States Constitution. I started a citizen activist group called Gina for Liberty. You can find me on I have a Facebook page under that, and I also have a website called ginaforliberty.com. And that's basically, I started that urging my fellow New Yorkers to become active and speak out on public issues as we the people. Because as you both know, we have a constitutional republic and the power is all in the people. And we need to learn what our natural rights are, how to stand on them so we can return the power back to the people. So these last few years, what I've been doing with the activist group, I have been organizing a speaker series, inviting activist speakers to inform the public on these matters of life and liberty. I've had medical conferences. One was called Breaking the Spell. That was very early on. I brought 2 doctors in, Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Andy Kaufman, to basically tell the truth, speak truth, dispel the fear, because fear is the driver of this whole thing, as you both know. Yeah. And that was basically to inform the people of what this really is and why this is happening to us. So that was early on. Then it went from there to law seminars I put on when a group of healthcare workers in my community were considered heroes 1 year. And then when they were on the front lines of this battle of, quote, COVID, and then a year later, they were now considered zeros. They were getting fired unlawfully because they refused an experimental jab. So they reached out to me and I ended up putting on seminars. They wanted to know how to do a religious exemption because they had sincerely religious beliefs of why they could not take this shot. And again, they were being fired. So I taught them federal law, which is our Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, where an employer cannot discriminate against an employee based on their religious beliefs. So we went that route. And then I got involved with my friend, as you both know, Jim Scarchilli. He was running for, he was running on the platform of a constitutional sheriff. I was heavily involved in that. I brought in Sheriff Richard Mack, which is the Arizona retired sheriff that you both are very well familiar with. He started the CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriff Peace Officer Association. So he came in last October before the election to basically educate the community on what a constitutional sheriff is, which I want to say is what every sheriff is supposed to be. But we have to inform the people now because, you know, a lot of things have been censored, as you both know. So people don't really know that, oh, this is what a sheriff is supposed to stand for. So we had to run it as like an actual platform. Constitutional sheriff, and why we needed to elect one, because really quick on that, the sheriff is the highest law enforcement officer in his or her county. So he has to act as the buffer between government overreach, as we're seeing grossly in New York, and protecting his constituents in his county, their constitutional rights. So he has more power in his county. Again, a lot of people don't realize this. It's been kept hidden from us, that he can kick out the president of the United States, the FBI, anyone underneath them. He can kick out Hochul and her people if they're violating the constitutional rights. That's why it's so important for the people of our communities to vet your sheriff, because they take an oath to the Constitution first, above all. And if they're in violation of that, you can get them unseated. We the people. So that was another thing I did most recently. This past Friday, I held a conference with the director of New York Citizens Audit Group. I brought in Marley Hornick, and she put on a fabulous presentation with respect to election integrity. And the data that she had found in her citizens group actually is from the government's own databases, and it's striking evidence that no elected official will take a look at, actually, and it actually points to there's a potential massive breach in our United States infrastructure of our national security. So that's pretty scary. We need to obviously clean up our voter rolls. That's another thing I'm a big proponent for too, because, you know, we had a lot of issues that day, this past midterm election with you know, tabulation issues, the ballots. There were so many issues at the voter polls that day, but we can't even get to those issues till we clean up the voter rolls first. So we need to really demand an end-to-end audit, and we need to put the pressure on our local officials. Again, I want the people to know that who we elect, they are our public servants. So they work for us. They have to answer to us, we the people, or we can unseat them. So again, we have to put our pressure. We really have to organize as a We the People movement. And that's one of the things that I've really been doing these last few years. Another thing is Attorney Tom Rentz, last year, no, I think it's about a year and a half ago, he invited me to a conference down in Texas. He's trying to mobilize all of the attorneys that are in this fight. And there I learned a wealth of information that I brought back to our community, and I put on a Health and Liberty conference because I learned of what's happening, the truth in the hospitals. And I wanted to inform the people to protect them from what's happening to them or their loved ones. They're withholding the life-saving treatments. They were putting the patients on the CDC lethal protocol, and they were getting paid very good money to do so under the COVID CARES Act. So I put this seminar on again to just inform them where they can get the life-saving treatments, know their rights going into a hospital, okay, and how to stand on them. God forbid that they had to go in there. So that was very important. Also, I'm a volunteer attorney pro bono for Pacific Justice Institute, PJI New York. They are a nonprofit legal defense firm with 23 offices in 18 states right now, defending religious freedom, parental rights, the sanctity of life, and other civil liberties without charge because they're a nonprofit. So I try to help them out as best I can for this region in upstate New York. So that's basically what I've been doing. But before we go too, I definitely want to kind of inform the people how to know their rights and stand on them. That the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, okay? And our rights don't come from the Constitution. Our rights come from our Creator. They're God-given, they're unalienable, they can't be transferred to another person, they can't be violated and infringed upon. As long as you're a law-abiding citizen, you're not committing a crime, you are free. You are a free man or woman on the land, okay? The people have to know that. Any law, regulation, whether it's a local ordinance, whatever it may be, a mandate. By the way, a mandate is not a law. So again, the people should not be compliant to anything, even if it was a law. If it's unconstitutional, do not consent to it, okay? The people need to know that and band together, because how we get out of this, because we're under tyranny, is massive nonviolent civil disobedience, okay? Because we're trying to do everything we can lawfully in the courts, but because we truly are under tyranny, the courts, many of them are compromised. So we're not seeing the relief that we should be seeing within our court system. And that's when it has to come back to we the people. We have to get organized and we have to stop consenting because the power truly is in us. So there's an 1800s case that still stands true with our legal precedent. That's the Marbury versus Madison case. And that just says if there's any law, like I said, ordinance, whatever it may be, that is repugnant to the United States Constitution, it's automatically null and void. Okay. There's one other thing I wanted to mention too. Let's see. Oh, we need more lawyers. Okay. You both know that in this fight, we're very limited. I'm not sure why that is. I have a couple of theories. I think one is for those that aren't, because we're indoctrinated in law school, just like a lot of medical doctors are indoctrinated as well. And that could be part of the problem. But for the ones that aren't, and they know what's really going on, I think many of them are afraid because like they're going after the doctors' medical licenses, they're going to go after the attorney's bar license. So I just want to appeal to them that we first as attorneys, we take an oath to the Constitution of the United States and then the Constitution of the state where you are sworn in, where you're barred in. Okay, and that's first. We don't take an oath to the Bar Association. So important to note too, whether there's an emergency or not, And in this case, I think we know the data is coming out proving that it's not an emergency. How can it be an emergency? And whatever COVID-19 is, it has a 0.1 death rate, which means it's like a 99.9987% for survival recovery rate, which right there tells you there's no real emergency. But even if there was, okay, our Constitution does not get suspended during an emergency. Okay, and the founding forefathers made that very clear when they crafted, our Constitution. They knew the government would just keep creating emergencies if that were the case to take our rights away. So that's important for everyone to know as well. And then we still have time because there's two other things I wanted to cover.
Just go with it. Go with it.
All right, I'm just going to go with it. Okay, so well, getting back really quick to the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence asserts that governments derive just powers from the consent of the governed. So again, in order for them to have just powers to do something to us, we have to consent with them. Okay, if we don't consent with them, then we're not controlled. Okay, we're not enslaved. We, the people, grant these powers to the men and women whom we elect to serve us. And again, our elected officials, they're our public servants. Okay, they have to answer to us. I did want to discuss, which is very important because I like to keep the people informed here, is of the quarantine camps that are very real in New York State. Okay, so I tried to sound the alarm with Sheriff Mike Carpinelli a couple years ago on this. You remember, John? And we had like a full hall that was packed that time. I was calling, how I started that is I found out about it, this DOH regulation for the Department of Health, that I knew Hochul was trying to slip through, circumvent the legislative body. And she was trying to put it through a backdoor DOH regulation and slip it in. Okay, and she can't do that because of the separation of powers. She's under the executive branch of the government along with her agencies underneath her, the DOH. And so actually I became friendly with the attorney, Bobby Ann Cox, who is the attorney on this case. And she won that case last year. But now Hochul and Letitia James, our attorney general, she has appealed that decision. But I want to write what the judge said from Cattaraugus County Supreme Court, Judge Ronald Plowetz, if I'm saying that correctly. He threw out the regulation in January, declaring the scheme, quote, absurd and blatantly unconstitutional. But the governor and attorney general, they want to restore the power to seize anybody. So they can arrest, so the employees of the Department of Health under this unlawful, unconstitutional regulation, they can arrest anybody on a suspicion. They don't even have to prove that you're sick or you've been exposed to any communicable disease. It doesn't even have to be COVID. In fact, I read something today where it said Lyme disease, and the last thing I knew is that Lyme is not contagious. So it basically gives them the power to arrest anyone that they think without due process of law, just based on a suspicion. They can lock you down in your home. They can take you to a facility of their choice. There's no age restriction. They can take your newborn baby, your elderly grandmother away. There's no time frame. It could be indefinitely. It can be. And there's no legal way, right? The way this is going, I'm beginning to think that, and there's no legal recourse or path to negotiate your way out of this. So I want to make clear again, we got to get back under the real organic Constitution, that even if you are sick, and because, she says like, just a suspicion, they can do it. But let's say that you truly are sick with COVID or whatever it is that's communicable. They still cannot force you into isolation or quarantine without your permission or your consent. That's an important word, consent, legally. So again, they can't do this. This is all wholly unconstitutional. And here she is trying to do this. And we have to ask as New Yorkers, why do they want this power grab? Why do they want to be able to throw people into quarantine camps? And for those people that don't believe that these are real, well, the lawsuit's very real. You can take a look at that. My other thing is go on the CDC website and type in green zones and the shielding approach, and that tells you everything. Okay, of course, it's always under the guise of health and goodness, but they do lay out what this is. So that's pretty scary. We have to, we have to just get informed and get organized. And
people need to get involved. People need to get involved with a lot of stuff.
People need to get involved, and the lawyers need to get involved and not be scared. And the doctors need to practice their oath is first do no harm, the Hippocratic Oath. They need to remember that first, because these are crimes against humanity. And we hope we can get to a Nuremberg 2.0 someday. And there is no legal defense. Just following orders is not a legal defense. So people need to be aware of that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, real quick, Gina.
Yep.
Can you just let people know how they can contact you again?
Yes. So they can contact me. Sure. So if you go on to my website, it's called Gina for Liberty, not the number 4. You have to spell it FOR. So GinaForLiberty.com. And then I have a Facebook page to that effect as well. So they can find me there.
I got one question before you take off.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that there's 2 different constitutions. Can you explain the New York Constitution versus the federal world Constitution?
So our United States Constitution was drafted by our founding forefathers to protect our rights, our God-given natural rights. And then every state has a state constitution, and pretty much it mirrors the federal constitution, because there is that hierarchy. It's the supreme law of the land is the constitution. Underneath that is the, the state, and then the would be the local as far as laws go. But so it pretty much mirrors it. It pretty much does. But the states are sovereign, and that's why they have their own constitutions. But their own constitution cannot be repugnant or violate the federal constitution, the United States Constitution.
And vice versa.
So that trumps,
And vice versa. Vice versa. Federal cannot violate the state constitution.
Well, that's correct too. That they can't. Yep.
All right, I think we're all set, Gina. Thanks for
Perfect. Well, thank you both for having me. Keep fighting the good fight.
And you
Okay,
too.
thank you. Have a good
All
night.
right, thank you guys. You too. God bless.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye now.
All right, John.
All right.
Let's call out the BS. All right.
Yeah, let's call out some BS. You know what? I got some BS to call out here. You know what? I put up a post yesterday. I got flagged for it. And there was a half-naked woman on my page. I've got 170 views on this post. More people want to see that than they want to see us. They want to hear about the Constitution, or they want to hear about the BS in New York. More people are looking towards that than they are to, say, save their children or come to a school meeting or whatever, a town meeting, a town board meeting, whatever. More people are apt to give you more likes, more views, and more comments on something like that than they are something that's a million times more important. And that's why I put that on there yesterday, was to see how many likes I would get before today, because I noticed last week you said we had like 400 and something views on our live. Well, in a week's time, I bet you my post is going to hit 1,000 views.
It was painting the ceiling, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the one.
I saw that.
That was the one. Yeah, that was the one.
I didn't comment on it, but I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah, I know you did.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy because people are not. They're out there. They're not really paying attention. They see that picture and they're going, yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like people care more about that kind of stuff than they do, say, any of these groups or.
Not for nothing, pedophiles.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't understand why so many people are not getting involved. I mean, this Kathy Hochul, she's talking about having all the schools in New York State, having all your children jabbed next September before you have to go to school. And there's no meetings about it anywhere that I know of. I don't get it. We need to get people together. People need to stand up.
They need to start thinking. People need to start thinking. These are your kids. These are your grandkids, future grandkids. It's wild, but
right.
I know it's insane. I just heard the other day about the insurance. Now you need insurance if you're a gun owner. Yeah. That's in the Senate right now in New York, and then that'll open up a can of worms with a lot of stuff. With if you insurance companies refusing you, or if they, I was listening to on the radio, refusing you, or if you're if they might want to have you mentally evaluated before you do insurance. It can go down this big, huge. We'll call this one the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That's a big rabbit hole.
Whatever you want to call it, but No, I just heard that the other day. It was like,
That's a big rabbit hole. You know, another thing that you're speaking of are two-way rights that are God-given. They're not given to us by anybody else but God. It's free. We're supposed to be free. Now, if you go to, I'm just going to throw out Bass Pro for an example. You can go to Bass Pro now, and there are some ammunitions available. There wasn't recently, but there's ammo available now for pretty much any caliber. But now you have to give your driver's license. They will not sell you ammo unless you give a driver's license, and that's being reported to the federal government. How many boxes of 308 you bought? How many boxes of 223 you bought? Everything's being recorded. That should be unconstitutional as well.
It is. It's everything being tracked. That's the same thing with the whole with the crypto, not the crypto, but the digital currency.
Yeah.
Track everybody. They're going to see you can't even give a waitress a tip anymore. Now, waitresses should be pissed off and be fighting against us. People that cut hair, you give them a tip. Because I'll tell you what, whenever I get my hair cut, I always give them cash. If I pay with my card, fine. But I'll tell you what, your tip is cash.
Well, I don't have that issue, but.
But no, let's get to Gina real quick, because I want to say something about that, and that is that the Bar Association, I think, just like she was saying, she kind of hit around a little bit to it. Now, I want to tell everybody that what we talk about has nothing to do with any of the guests that we have on here.
Right, exactly.
What we think, what we research, what we know, what's going on, and our own opinions. But and if we're wrong on something, somebody post it in the comment, post it on there. Because if we're wrong on something, we want to hear it. We have no problem.
We want to know. Yeah.
No problem with debate. But the whole thing with the Bar Association is they got the pressure just like the doctors do and everything else. So when somebody comes out and says they're a constitutional attorney, bam, they're going to get nailed. They're going to be targeted. Because they don't want nothing to do with the Constitution. And that's why we're not going to talk to anybody and call anybody a constitutional attorney, because we don't want them to get targeted. They do what they do. And they're just fighting a good fight, just like Gina is. They're fighting a good fight, and that's how I see it.
Well, unfortunately, I think, I'm not sure. You can correct me on this. I'm pretty sure that the Constitution is trying to be rewritten in some type of way. I understand. Have you heard about that?
I didn't hear about that, but I did hear something once about the 13th or 14th, one of the amendments that was like totally like wiped out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's something we need to check into. I mean, they can't really wipe anything out. It's our God-given.
This happened during the what was it? One of the wars, Spanish-American War, I think it was. That something happened, that something caught on fire. The White House caught on fire or something like that. Something happened. That's when they had to rebuild it. I could be wrong on this, just stuff that I research and not everything you research is true.
No, I know.
So something happened to where the original Constitution actually got burnt up, but then it was rewritten, but then something was left out of it. I could be wrong. I'm just saying something I researched years ago. I didn't really research it. Something I was reading about, going, all right, maybe that's right, maybe it's not right, But if anybody knows about that, post it in the comments. Let's hear about it.
I thought recently Hochul was going to do something with the New York Constitution. That she actually came out and said that, because people have asked me about it just recently, and I don't watch her at all. I can't stand the lady. I don't watch her. I don't watch her lives. So I don't know. I didn't hear it for myself, but like probably 8 to 10 people have asked me about that. And it's just been recently, within the past like 3 weeks, stating that she wants to change the New York Constitution, not the U.S. Constitution. I don't know.
I wouldn't doubt it, because everything else is getting like, they just like go above that. They just like, Constitution means nothing. They're just going to keep pushing the agenda. But like I said, if people know about this stuff, if they've heard about it, if they've done any research, post in the comments. We read the comments. Let us know. Because, people can't research everything and know everything. I don't know everything. Right?
I don't know.
I
don't know everything. I probably never will know everything. It's just a lot of, it's just a lot of research and a lot of deep holes you go in, and sometimes you come out with the same thing you went in with. Nothing. It's really tough sometimes. But the more help we get on all these subjects, the easier it's going to be.
And the corruption is almost like the never-ending story.
Oh my God,
It just
where
keeps
do you
going
start
on
with
and
that?
on. I mean, you can like just research for forever and not ever really come
Yeah, no.
figure things
Well,
out. It's like it's crazy. But
right. Well, when Gina was on, she did say something about the courts being compromised. She knows this for a fact. She's in the courts constantly, day in and day out. She has been for years and years. So the courts are compromised. The police stations are compromised. The jails are compromised. What is not compromised in New York now?
it's the tentacles that have reached out for decades and decades. The tentacles.
Right.
But there are good, not for nothing. There are good judges out there. There's good.
Oh, there is.
There's good people. There's good police officers out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's really good. There's actually good like town supervisors and stuff like that. But there are some that are kind of iffy, kind of skeptical.
Yeah, no doubt. No, there's good podcasters out there, and there's bad ones. And we're trying to shoot for the moon here and try to be good ones and try to get what people want to talk about. So people can do that too in the comments. Let us know what you want to talk about next week, or something to that effect.
Yeah, and something, not for nothing, but I just want to throw this out there real quick. I wanted to ask Gina, and I forgot to ask her. I'd like to get Marley on from the New York Citizens Audit. I'd love to get her on here. If you want to contact Gina and ask her about
I will.
Whatever. And and to let people know, because we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
What is time really? But
I can't see the time on my phone here.
Anyhow, so
go ahead.
Next week we got Jennifer Williams. She started a chapter in Wayne County for Moms for Liberty.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like a nationwide thing going on. And these are people that are fighting for your kids. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Fight, like the school stuff that's going on, the sexual education and all this stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Jennifer on next week, which is gonna be great. And then after that we have who I like to call the little firecracker. Cherise Stuhler, Fight for Your Family. And she's going to talk about more or less like about how important it is to get involved locally, because like with school boards and with what do you call them? School boards, town boards, and committees and stuff like that. Because even though people don't realize this, but the school boards is political.
Yes, very.
And she's going to talk about all that stuff, which is going to be great because people need to get informed about this stuff. People need to know these people are out there fighting for their rights, and people don't know that. That's why one of the reasons to call out the BS, but also get people informed on what's really going on in New York here, because they have no idea of how many people are out there fighting for their rights.
No, you know what? A lot of times people don't realize there is a lot of people out there, and if they're only on, say, Facebook, and the person, say, like Cherise out there fighting for the kids and the moms, and she puts a live video on, maybe 10 people will see it. Facebook just, they block everything. So a lot of people don't get a lot of information from Facebook. I mean, we got to really jump on a lot more platforms. And word of mouth is always, you got to come to something to be involved, and you'd really know what's going on.
Well, yeah. Well, that's why I like tomorrow morning I will put on the YouTube. I'll send a link out, but I'll cut out all the beginning nonsense that I got to deal with.
Right.
Share and this and that. And I'll throw it on YouTube, and there's also a Rumble backup channel that'll be posted on too, just in case, because nobody trusts YouTube anymore either.
Right. No, I know. It seems like all the platforms are compromised in one way or another. It's pretty much, we just have to deal with it. We got to fight about it. We have to fight. That's all we have to do is fight. But we need more of us to fight.
But Rumble seems to be the only decent one right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tubi. I just started watching that the other day. Tubi, which shows a lot of documentaries and stuff and movies that something I wanted to mention. Burrow. People got to start looking into Burrow if they have Roku TV. BURROW. Burrow TV, I think it is. You can watch all the documentaries on there that's not shown anywhere else. I think it's .tv. You'll see a rabbit, almost like
a rabbit hole,
like the rabbit hole thing. You'll see it. Now you can watch the videos. You can watch them like what I do is I might like look at 1 or 2 per week. I'll click on it and go, I already know about this, or I'm not interested in this. And I'll click onto another one and be like, oh, this one's great. I like, I'm interested in this. If you want to get informed of what's going on. But once again, don't listen to what people say or tell you. Do your own research. And make your own opinions on what you see.
Right.
Let anyone talk you in anything. Form your own opinions on it. That's it.
Right. And if somebody has a different opinion than us, or a different opinion than their peers or their coworkers or whatever, it's just an opinion. Who cares? At the end of the day, we're all people shooting for the same goal. Freedom for us, freedom for future generations. And that's it. Who cares if there's a little disagreement in there somewhere? I mean, let's all just get over that nonsense and all just be friends at the end of the day, no matter if we agree or disagree or whatever. We're all in it for the same goal.
Exactly. All right, I think we said all said, or you
okay.
Say or whatever.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think it was a pretty good video.
All right. So once again, guys, share the video out. Let people get informed. That's it. And I think we're all set. And we'll see you next week with Jennifer Williams.
Yes. She's going to be good.
Webster. She will be good.
Yes, she will be good for sure.
All right.
All right, Charles. Peace out, brother. All right. All right.